Thank you for listening to the BJJ Brick Podcast. We'll be bringing you Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and good times. We hope to flatten your Jiu-Jitsu learning curve, help you get the most out of your grappling ability, and meet your goals both on and off the mat.
Welcome back, my friends. Episode 80 of the BJJ Brick Podcast. I'm Gary, and as usual, we got Byron here also. How are you today, Byron?
Gary, I'm doing pretty good.
Good. Byron and I just got done rolling, so we're pretty tired.
A little bit tired. Not. I wouldn't say exhausted. I didn't. Really
I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
I am exhausted, but that's a good day. Today we got a very special guest. Jay Bell is going to be on the show. We're going to have an interview with him. So very, very excited about that. I know we'll all learn a lot from him.
Yeah, it's a fun interview, Gary. We talk about a lot of different things. Coach Jay Bell has a lot of experience, and he's got also a really cool YouTube channel, Gary. I know you've been a fan of that for many years.
I tell you, when Byron told me he interviewed Jay Bell, I was like, oh, man, that's awesome. Jay Bell was one of the first guys that I started watching online. I would always, watch his stuff. So Jay Bell is like a hero of mine. So I heard that name, and I just started smiling. I was like, "Oh man, too bad I missed that one."
Yeah, we talk about everything from just like competition advice or advice for you if you're still in your first 6 months, making a gym profitable if you're a gym owner. So everybody should be able to get something of pretty amazing value out of this interview.
Yeah, I like the part. He talks about how he likes to run the kids class.
Yep, a lot of good information in this interview, guys, and. After we get the other stuff out of the way, we'll get right to that, I guess.
Awesome.
Gary, speaking of other stuff, we're trying to keep the computer power on the and the lights on in this place here.
Because it's not, the sun's not out every day.
That's true. Yeah. My solar panel is getting dusty, and it's in the shade now.
Yeah. You got to cut the trees down.
But really, if you want to help us out, we do have a audiobook available to download. It's basically... I recorded it without Gary, unfortunately, but
so that means it should sell well.
But it's just me giving you advice for your first year of training. If you're in your first year, or even if you're past that and you want to support the podcast, it's a great way to do that. It's called Your First Year of BJJ, and it's about 2.5 hours long. It's $11.99, so you can think of it like $1 per month for listening. I don't know, for a year. I don't know how you want to break it down, but it's $12. There's the link to it in the show notes or on the website. You should be able to find it pretty easily. And I do appreciate the support.
Yeah, stuff from Byron, it's top notch. Byron is a great jiu-jitsu practitioner and teacher. He's taught me a ton. So thank you, Byron.
Yep. And thanks, Gary, man. He always make me, I don't know what to say. Gary's taught me a ton too, but it's everything from finding your first gym and why you would do jiu-jitsu to all the way to competition. So it's kind of a lot of different emotions happen your first year, and it's not an easy year for your training.
That's one of the things we really are geared toward with this podcast is we're really trying to help the new people. That's kind of we gear more that way. And it's tough when you first start. It's tough navigating your first, month, year, 6 months, trying to figure out where to go, what to do. And that's hopefully we can give people a little bit of a hand there. That's what we're looking to do.
So that's one way you can support us if that's something you want to do. But something even better that you could do with your money would be to go support our friend Amber Oxford Haynes.
Definitely. We've talked about it last week there with the person who put on the event, Matt Lowe. Definitely, Amber is a great person, great jiu-jitsu person, and we're all trying to help her out.
Yep, she's in a fight with breast cancer, and she's unable to work during this. So her and our friend Chris are having the stress of that, and then plus also not having the steady income that Amber has with her several jobs. She's an amazing person. She's got more jobs than I could even imagine. Yeah, but several donators have came in lately. A gentleman by the name of Jason donated a significant amount of money.
Thank you, Jason. We really appreciate it, and we appreciate everybody who's donated.
Yeah,
the names are on there. I see Nathan Hadley. I know Nathan really well. Thank you, and just everybody else donating. So thank you very much.
Yeah, it means a lot to them, and even if it's not a significant chunk of money, a small donation shows Amber that she's getting support, and it's a good feeling to have somebody. Oh, this person is willing to help me today.
And even those small donations just add up. I mean, if you have any little bit, it's definitely going to help.
If you feel like helping somebody, Amber Oxford Haynes is a great person to help out. She's going through a tough time. I'll put links to everything in the show notes, or check out the website. It's got a youcarrying.com page, and I'll try to make everything easy for you to find. If you can't find it, email me at bjjbrick@gmail.com, and I'll send you that way and help you get to helping Amber out. We'll do anything we could do to help you guys get to her and help out with things. If you want to get a little bit more of the BJJ Break podcast, we do have an email list where we send out the show notes weekly. Just go to the Facebook page or the email, or the not email. What do we have? We have a website, Gary.
We have a website.
You go to the website, bjjbrick.com, and you can put your name and your email in there. Every week you'll get an email that says, what's on the show. And then at the bottom of that, there's also a link to a Dropbox folder with a half dozen or so parts, little clips from little mini ebooks or whatever, or audiobooks and different things in there. You'd also find a couple of the chapters from the audiobook that we have for sale that was still up in there. So at one point in time, I had the entire audiobook in that thing, and I've got rid of a couple of the bigger chapters out of there. But still, there's several pieces. So if you're on the fence about the audiobook, get on the email list and check it out through the Dropbox folder. So that's good. Gary, how about last week we had a really cool interview with Jared Dopp. Megalo.
Yep, Megalo Dopp.
Got a lot of good feedback on that, and just he's somebody that you want to hear from, because what he's accomplished in such a short amount of time, and you want to learn from somebody like that.
Yep,
but
so we got the quote of the week from him today.
Yeah, we are lucky. So here we go.
Yeah, actually, it's been one of my favorites lately. I've been trying to live more like this, and it's not anything about winning or losing. It's a little motivational, kind of a feel good, and will point you in the right direction. It's by Miyamoto Musashi from the Book of Five Rings, and it says, "There's nothing outside of yourself that can ever enable you to get better, stronger, richer, quicker, or smarter. Everything is within. Everything exists. Seek nothing outside of yourself." And I really like that one, because so many people are always looking for a way to get better, but they're not thinking that they're the ones responsible for it. They're looking for the next diet, the next strength and conditioning program, the next supplement. They're trying to find the newest, best way to study. How does this person study? How did this person do their homework? When in reality, they just need to be focusing on themselves, because all those other things aren't going to help you unless you really want it. You have to find your way of doing things, and that's the only way to improve. That's my opinion on the quote.
Okay, that was Jared Dopp. Basically, the quote is, "There is nothing outside of yourself that can ever enable you to get better, stronger, richer, quicker, or smarter. Everything is within. Everything exists. Seek nothing outside of yourself." Man, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's deep. We're maybe are going over this quote, and we're like, I'm glad he explained that, because it's a deep quote, but it makes sense. Like, look inside yourself for answers. Don't like copy what people are doing. Do your own thing. And
I see that so much. Like you said, everybody's looking for magic pill, a shortcut, and it kills me. Like I see on the infomercials, somebody selling a sit-up machine that actually does a sit-up for you, and it's like, come on, you get down. Nothing that good old hard work that you yourself can do will make you better.
Yeah, I'm reminded of two things. The first is a little more serious, but when we had John Kavanaugh on the show, and he said that focus on your game, and then he gave the example of Ronda Rousey. Like, everybody who she's fought is worried about getting armbarred, and they go out there and they don't do their thing, and they get armbarred. Well, granted, Ronda Rousey is amazing, but if he had a fighter going to fight her, he would say, "We're going to do your thing. We're going to be in your place. We're going to fight your fight, and not worry so much about the armbar." And that's what his strategy would be. I think that would be better than any strategy I'd come up with. So that, and then the second thing it reminded me of just sit-up machine. You ever seen the movie Bad Grandpa?
No, I haven't. I haven't seen it. I would like to.
You would like? It would make you laugh. There's parts that are pretty darn funny in that. But anyway, he's they're in their house. They're having like an estate sale, and he's showing them how to use this fancy bed that they have that will sit you up or whatever. And so it's Johnny Knoxville is dressed up as a guy and an elderly man, and he lays on the bed, and the woman hits the button, and it just like folds him in half and starts like slamming him close, slam, 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 like an automatic sit-up machine would do the workout for you. It's like, I don't know how he didn't actually get injured doing this stunt, but it just
that guy always gets injured.
Yeah, he's tough.
Yeah.
And the ladies are just like screaming like as he's getting slammed in this machine over and over again.
This has nothing to do with it. I'm way off topic, but could you imagine doing jiu-jitsu with Johnny Knoxville and his guys there, Steve-O and all those guys? I bet you couldn't get them to tap.
I bet you'd be rolling, and then they'd come with that little buzz thing and shave your head as you're on the mat there.
Either that or antique you.
Yeah. There's worse things that could be done than both those.
Yeah. But those dudes, I mean, they put themselves in pain, so I bet it'd be hard to tap those guys out. They got a high threshold.
Yeah, especially with or get them to move from, that's one thing off topic again, but I guess back on the topic is like not moving from discomfort, moving because of, someone has good leverage, some of that. Yeah. But if I push you in it kind of like a pressure point, a lot of times jiu-jitsu people are great at ignoring those because I don't want to move. I'm where I want to be. I'm heavy. I got to get side control, and you're going to pressure point me a little bit. I'm just going to stay there and just pressure. And I think that a lot of the traditional martial arts, you get that little pressure point and you move from that and you react to that. But in jiu-jitsu, if you gave them that 3 inches that they want to get from you, that's all they needed to escape or whatever. I think after about 6 months of jiu-jitsu, you're pretty good at ignoring little uncomfortableness things. So,
but definitely, we went out a little off topic, but a great article, Jared Dopp. Always, think within yourself. It's up to you. Do what you need to do.
Yeah, if you missed the interview, go back and check out last week's and. It's
and the guy is just phenomenal.
Yeah, he's a full-time student, and he's getting 4th place at Abu Dhabi. It's like
that's phenomenal.
He's a purple belt.
Yeah, that's unheard of.
That's an amazing accomplishment right there. And he's looking to go back and do
some more work.
Yeah.
So definitely, every time you get a chance to watch him, watch him. It's going to be fun and entertaining.
So Gary, the music is telling us that it's time for the article of the week.
I like that music.
And we've got an article written by our friend Mark Mullen, who, if you mention the BJJ Brick podcast in the article, there's a good chance we might talk about it. He didn't. We know him. We're actually going to get him on the show in a little bit, in a few weeks. But just because we always read his articles, and they always speak to us well, and so I emailed him, and he said yes. But I was just cruising online, and I saw this. The article's titled 6 Great Ways to Get Information About BJJ. So, I always like information about BJJ.
And then we saw our name, listed on there. And then we both broke down crying. It finally happened.
It finally happened. Yeah. So after we cleaned up all the tears and a little bit of pee, we got back together. And
yeah. But so, now we think of ourselves as pretty big shots. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, big time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, the car that I have now has most of the paint on it. Like when I started this podcast, my car had very little paint.
And you want to know the crazy thing about his car that he started the podcast with? The horn would go off.
That's right.
At any given time. You never knew. Like, you could pull up to a stoplight next to a bunch of, a motorcycle gang.
Absolutely.
And then all of a sudden that horn just starts going off.
Yeah.
I mean, good thing Byron knew jiu-jitsu.
It's one thing to have it go off once, and then you kind of wave and act like you might know it. But, like, for it to repeatedly go off after you've already had the initial wave, like, people expect them to be wrong, Like, what, is my car on fire? Was my motorcycle, you got a problem with our gang?
Yeah. So. And it has, it leads to a lot of road rage incidences. But Byron would always calm him down and then pull guard in the middle of the street. Worked well.
Yeah, bro, right in the intersection is the best place to pull guard. But this article has 6 great ways to learn information about BJJ. The first one was BJJ podcast. And there are several podcasts out there. Many, if you like this, you're going to, there's some of them, other ones that you'll also enjoy. I mean, we're definitely not the podcast for BJJ, but we're just one of them, and we do our thing here. But he mentions that, and he mentions Inside BJJ as another podcast, and there's Open Mat Radio, and Fightworks podcast is another one I enjoy. Yeah. Lots of good podcasts out there. And it's obviously about podcasts if we're listening. If we're talking to you now.
Yep. So. Everybody will find their favorite.
And then there's this website, Gary, called YouTube.
YouTube.
That's item number 2 of getting information about BJJ.
And earlier we talked about Jay Bell's YouTube site, and I've checked that out numerous times. Great stuff.
Yep.
But yeah, definitely. A lot of people have a lot of the stars and black belts and purple belts, brown belts have YouTube sites, and you'll find somebody that you really like. There's so many guys out there, but we all have our own way of learning. Somebody who really helps us out that we can really understand. And like I said, Jay Bell was one of the guys, and Matt Kirtley was another guy that really helped my game. So check them out, see who you really like, and check out the YouTube channels.
The next thing on the list of learning or getting information about BJJ is books. There's regular books, and he's got a list here with 10 great books, and I've seen a lot of them and have a few. There's Renzo Gracie's Mastering Jiu-Jitsu, and of course Salo's Jiu-Jitsu University is probably one of the biggest books out there. But there's several on here I need to at least look into and see if they're right for me.
I've heard that Fighter's Heart, Sam Sheridan. I heard that's incredible. I do have to read that. I've talked about I was going to read it numerous times, and I haven't yet, but I heard it's incredible.
So if you're looking for a book about Jiu-Jitsu, you could just find this article and click on his link there, or obviously the link is in the notes, and find the link to that, and then link on to the 10 books he recommends. So that's 2 links, kind of. Hopefully it's not too difficult. But there's lots of good books. Or just go to Amazon and find a good book about Jiu-Jitsu and get to learn
and enjoy yourself.
It's like sometimes if the only way you have to learn something is one way, like you're going to go and train in class, that's a great way to learn. That's
your best way.
But your brain can pick up things. Like some people, it's like if you're a visual learner versus a person who does things. Like you need to kind of get your brain activated in multiple areas coming at it, and it will help. But obviously going to class and training with partners and good instructors is your best way.
Yeah. Internet forums, and what I really like about the internet forums, they talk about the underground mixed martial arts and SureDog, but the nice thing about the internet forums is you can ask a specific question, and there's a lot of black belts. I normally check out the undergrounds, a lot of black belts on there, and purple belts, brown belts that'll help you with your questions. I'll post videos of kind of what you're talking about. But that's what I really like about forums. You can ask a specific question and get a bunch of advice there.
Yeah, and there's also, Gary, occasionally I'll remember to post our podcast in internet forums, but I usually don't. So if some listener wants to post our podcast in the forum, we would love it.
Yeah, definitely.
It's one thing that I forget, I would say 80% of the time.
Yeah.
And we get new listeners, so if somebody wants to help us out, that would be a really nice thing to do.
Yeah. The only thing you have to worry about on mixedmartialarts.com is somebody map battles you, so stay away from that.
Somebody what?
Puts a link into map battle.
Oh.
Yeah, you don't want to go there.
I don't want to go there?
Yeah,
okay, I don't even know.
Stay away.
At least you can't catch an STD through an internet forum.
You might be able to from that site.
Oh, man, don't tell me about that. So, and there's also, I don't know if Reddit's considered a forum or not, but I'll usually remember to put our podcast there, and that seems like a great community.
Yeah.
If you have a question, and I don't know, some questions you want to answer, talk to somebody else outside your class. Maybe a lot of people on there will.
You know what I love about this sport is you can go on Facebook, find your favorite athlete, and basically, first of all, they'll accept your friend request most of the time. But you can send them you can just send a message, or there's a good chance they're going to answer it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that happens in any other sport.
No.
I really don't. It's crazy that you can send a message to somebody and they'll reply to you.
Yeah.
And they'll reply happily.
Yeah.
And that's crazy.
Pick an athlete and then, watch the match that they've had. I'd wait a week, maybe even just a couple of days to let them get home or whatever, and then say, hey, I'm a fan. I saw you online. I watched it, or I saw you in person. Excellent match. I really enjoyed watching you. I'm a big fan. And I would almost guarantee, not everybody responds, but most athletes say thanks for watching. I appreciate it.
It's crazy that this sport, how great these athletes are to the fans and help you out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we could add, I guess, Facebook on there, but that's what we have: Facebook pages and news consolidators. So, and then BJJ News is on there. That's a nice website. It just kind of you can go there every day. Every day it's got a new update, and it just has kind of the headlines of what's going on in the world of BJJ.
Yeah, and then the last one is blogs, and we get a lot of stuff from blogs that we use for our article of the week. Lately we've been with Jiu-Jitology.
Yeah.
So we've been getting a lot of stuff there. I really love that blog. So, check those out.
And learningbjj.com is another one we like to frequent. And there's just tons of blogs out there. And the Mark Mullen is on, he's the Gracie Baja blog. He's wrote a bunch for them. And Samuel Spiegelman's done a bunch of work that he's also going to be on the podcast pretty soon. So.
Yeah. And so definitely remember Mark Mullen in a couple of weeks is going to be on here. So definitely check that out.
Absolutely. Well, Gary, I think that wraps up the article. It's on graciebaja.com, or I'll just put a link to it in the show notes. Either way you want to get to it. It's put out April 21st.
Yeah, I think it's
24th, so if
24th.
you want to find it that way.
I think it's time to get on the meat and potatoes of the show.
Jay Bell.
Jay Bell.
Here we go. He is the most interesting grappler in the world.
A group of scientists teamed up to study his competition videos. Einstein refused to continue research because of its destructive power. He once choked out an opponent using only his Wi-Fi connection. When he models for gi companies, he uses only his bad side. He only gets ringworm on his ring finger.
I don't always listen to podcasts, but when I do, I prefer the BJJ Brick podcast. Stay sweaty, my friends.
All right, my friends, I'm happy to bring Jay Bell to the BJJ Brick podcast. Jay, how's it going?
It's going very well. I'm happy to be here.
Happy to have you here. Looking forward to the conversation we're going to have. Could you kind of tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I run a school called Gracie Farmington Valley, which is located in central Connecticut. I've been training jiu-jitsu for just about 15 years. I went from white belt up through brown under Royce Gracie, and currently I train under Marcio Stambowsky and Rob Kahn.
Cool. What got you started there?
Well, I watched the first UFC when I was still in high school. Saw this skinny Brazilian guy named Royce Gracie beat all these guys in what appeared to me to be a somewhat anticlimactic fashion. I couldn't really understand it, to be honest with you. And I was a high school wrestler, and so I thought it was pretty interesting. Fast forward a few years, about the year 2000, one of my best friends, on a whim, decided to enter this mixed martial arts contest. At that point in time, it was actually open hand striking only was legal in Massachusetts, so I went and watched him. Every single fight except his, the jiu-jitsu guy won. Somehow he got lucky and knocked the guy out with a palm strike, which was bizarre. And then between watching all of those jiu-jitsu guys win the fights and watching my best friend knock somebody out, I was like, one, jiu-jitsu looks pretty cool, and two, I really don't want my best friend to be able to beat me up. So I started jiu-jitsu the next week.
That's cool. That's it's similar to a lot of stories in the fact that you see Royce out there doing his thing, and that motivates you, and then usually you don't sign up for jiu-jitsu the next day. There's a little bit of a lag time in there, but your buddy doing well a little bit different way than everybody else. That's kind of funny.
Yeah, well, there was nothing around at the time. So, when Royce was fighting, in the East Coast, there was no jiu-jitsu anywhere that anyone was aware of. And even when I started, so, you're talking 2000, I made a bunch of calls. Nobody knew about anything about Brazilian jiu-jitsu at the time. The web wasn't really what it is now. And I ended up looking up a judo club and told them what I wanted to do because I couldn't find any jiu-jitsu. And they told me, hey, I think there's this, Royce Gracie affiliate in West Hartford. And then from there, I basically drove to West Hartford, drove around, found the place, walked in, and then it was kind of on from there. I think it was the first school, if not the first, maybe one of two schools in the state at that time. Now, 15 years later, God, you throw a rock, you can hit a school around here.
Yeah. Thinking back to the guys you used to train with back then, do much of them still train?
Surprisingly, a large number of them still train.
Yeah.
So many of us that trained together at that point in time all run different schools across the state. So it's basically still kind of a brotherhood. So even though I'm not with the Royce affiliate, that kind of got busted up a little bit probably in 2007, 2006. But the number of the guys that I was with back in 2000, I got one, Brad Wolfson runs a school under Marcio down in Hamden. Dustin Rhodes runs a school in Watertown. Charlie McShane runs a school in Norwich. I mean, there's Josh Hesser runs a school in Colchester, and we're all still really good friends. We all still train together regularly. I mean, we have a brotherhood of jiu-jitsu in Connecticut. I mean, there's so many schools, and we get together on a regular basis. It's really it's an amazing thing.
That's cool. You look at the students in any given like a year of attendance, and a lot of them come and go. But it seems like that when you first walk in the door, some of those guys are there for the long haul, and that's the way I was with me and Gary trained together. He beat me by like a month getting in the door there or so, but it's like look at that small group of guys, and a lot of them still train. It's just like your passion for it was so much back then. You had to go out and try to find it. It was hard to get to, and you really stuck with it. I mean, if it was just like across the street, maybe you wouldn't have had such a passion for it. Like it'd be more just a thing that you did on the whim, but you really had a desire for it, and so did everybody else there. Like it's fun to be in that kind of a passionate environment. Even back then, when it was harder to train, get good, like really nice instruction, and there weren't as many high level people around. But that's
yeah. When I first started, again, there's people that came from a couple hours away, and I think the one school that was around on the East Coast before us was Gracie Thornwood. So that's where Rob Kahn was teaching. And I don't know if you know Rob Kahn. He is a freaking animal. And he was the first purple belt I ever even saw. It was absolutely terrifying. I think I'd been training about a year and a half before I ever met him, and it was frightening to say the least.
That's funny. That puts like a little a thing in your head, like how good somebody is. Like I remember the same thing. Like I remember the first time we had a guest purple belt come in, and it was like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. But that's cool. Can you describe your style of jiu-jitsu, what you like to play, what type of game?
So my style is, if I'm in a bad position, I'm about the laziest jiu-jitsu player in the world. So, almost like I want to go to sleep. So I'll just wait, relax. I'm not scrambling or super active to try and immediately escape the position. Typically, I wait for the individual to continue to try and advance their position or go for an attack, which provides me an opportunity to escape. And then when I'm in a dominant position, to kind of quote one of my instructors, Rob Kahn, when you're in a dominant position, be dominant. Lots of pressure, lots of head pressure. I force my opponents to make a mistake, and I capitalize on the mistake.
I like that. I've never heard that before. When you're in a dominant position, be dominant. Don't just be in the position. Really dominate that position. That's cool.
Yeah, if you have an idea, so if you know how to make someone move in a certain direction. So, for example, you're on top in side control, and you apply head pressure. So, their head's facing away from you, and so they can't turn towards you. There's only a couple directions they can go. So you've minimized their number of options they have. So if you're just sitting on them in side control, let's say they have 20 different things they can do. Now that you have that head pressure, maybe there's 3 things they can do. You know what those 3 things are, and you have 15 different counters for each of those 3 things.
Jay, when you say that you have like a lazy when you're in bad position, I've done like a drill where somebody has a good position, side control mount, whatever, and the person in the bad position just has to try to do the bare minimum of effort to not get submitted. Don't worry about escape. Just kind of find that zone which you're kind of safe, and then try to avoid that zone where they're going to land their submission for sure, and just kind of not even work all that hard. Just kind of try to stay safe. It's kind of an interesting drill, and you definitely people aren't able to relax in that in mount or side control. They really like that ability a lot of times, but that drill's helped me realize that just because I'm in this bad position, I don't need to freak out the entire time. I need to be aware of okay, he's setting something up, he's getting closer. Now I need to go now, or it's going to be too late. Help me find that little bit of a range, and it's like you say, lazy in bad positions, but that helps you stay relaxed, and I think you'll see more that way too.
Yeah, the more relaxed you can stay in bad positions, I think the better off you're going to be. With the sportive aspect of jiu-jitsu, which is, it's fun, it's exciting. You get out there and you get an opportunity to compete. But when you think about jiu-jitsu as a form of pure self-defense and kind of the root of the way I practice, is that the more relaxed you can be, the better. I'm not in a hurry to escape. Right? I'm just looking to protect myself and then waiting for my opportunity.
Cool. Could you tell me a little bit about your school and what you got going on over there?
So again, my school's Gracie Farmington Valley. It's located right in central Connecticut. I've been teaching in Connecticut for probably 12 out of the 15 years I've been training. And then I opened the school about 4 years ago. I have all in between kids and adults, probably about 60 to 70 different students. One of the cool things about it is a number of the guys that I trained with, back when I started, some of those guys are actually still with me. So I have students with me that have been training with me and under me for 12, 13 years. A good group of guys. Basically, I look at it as a family. My kids train there. My wife trains there. All my best friends train there. It's basically my favorite place to be in the world, to be honest with you.
Cool. And what do you do off the mat?
Off the mat, I'm an insurance geek. Everybody's dream, to grow up and work in insurance. So I'm a junior executive at an insurance company in Hartford, the land of insurance. So I work about 60 hours a week.
Wow.
I have 2 kids, and then I run a school.
So how do you find balance with, working that much and then also running a school? And could you kind of give me some insight on how that works?
Yeah, I think it's similar to probably the majority of the guys listening to the podcast. So most of the folks listening, try and train at least 3 times a week. Some many times more if they can. But the majority of people have to earn an income. All right, so I'm the same way. I've always worked while I was doing jiu-jitsu. The only change is that I opened a school, so there's definitely some administrative and some additional time constraints. But I'd be training anyways. So whether I owned a school or not, I'd still be training somewhere, likely teaching. I just decided that, as much as I enjoyed training some other places I've trained at in the past, I wanted a place that was home, a place that my kids could train at, where I had a little more control in terms of what we were doing, how we were doing it, and then bring my best friends there to train with me, and then, invite my instructors, other people that I look up to and I admire, and bring them in to help us get better. And again, if I wasn't running the school, I'd be traveling somewhere else to train, so it just made it a little bit easier, to be honest with you.
Cool. It's actually saving you a little bit, having the school. You don't have to drive as far, sounds like.
So, it'd be one thing if it's a little different. So it was never my goal necessarily to say, okay, I'm going to leave my job, good job. I'm going to leave my job and run a school full time. And that's a daunting task or a daunting proposition. I have a few friends that have done it and done it well. For me, it was, I know I'm going to train. If I have my own place, it just makes it a little bit easier, to be honest with you. I was lucky that one of my students is a phenomenal, stand-up martial artist, so he runs the stand-up classes, and he also runs the kids' classes for me, and then I come in and teach all the adult jiu-jitsu classes, and then we do regular women's self-defense seminars for free. We do usually one of those every 3 to 4 months, and then we do free seminars for local law enforcement, and then any municipality, if they have something they want to do, for firefighters or other police officers, we'll do that for free too.
Cool. How do you how's the turnout on the like the police and the women's self-defense seminars?
The women's self-defense seminars, usually, I think the lightest one we've ever had was probably about 12. Normally we get about 30 people.
Wow.
Give or take, 20 to 30 people. A lot of the folks are the same folks. It's actually helped us in building, a women's class. So we had some challenges there initially. It's pretty daunting sometimes to get women into jiu-jitsu. So when we started doing those women's self-defense seminars and the ladies started seeing it and recognizing the value and the empowerment that they can get from learning some of these skills, we were able to start a women's class. In fact, one of the guys who trains with us, his wife trains as well, and she's been training for a while. So she helps to run our women's class, and I got my wife to start. It took me 14 years, but I got her to start, and she actually loves it now. My daughter, who's 5, trains. My son trains. So it's been pretty good.
That's cool. And what is your goal, or what do you like to see out of the kids program?
So the kids program, to be honest with you, I like what Henry and Huron do with the bully-proof.
Yeah.
So we kind of start there, so we play a lot of jiu-jitsu games. And I'd say probably when we started for the first 6 to 8 months, I think that's predominantly what we did. So we had some challenges initially in kind of, really getting the kids to do true jiu-jitsu, so we just played games. And then we had a couple kids. It really takes 1 or 2 that really get into it and want to learn. And we had 1 or 2 that really just got the jiu-jitsu bug and really wanted to kind of get to that next level. And so those 2 little girls, sweethearts, one of them's 10, one of them's 7, Holly and Leah, and they really just took to it. And then from there, the other kids look up to them and see what they're doing, and they start modeling their behavior. So once you have a few kids that really want to get better, everybody else wants to follow suit. Nobody wants to get left behind. And so we went from having 3 or 4 kids, I think, in the kids class when we first started, and now I think we have about 15, 16. And we had a few that just went to a recent tournament, did phenomenally well. So yeah, it's really kind of grown. And what I look for, we want to teach them the basic self-defense skills. All right, and when we have them roll, we don't do a lot of submissions. We'll show them some of those before they go to tournaments, obviously, but it's really all about positional dominance.
Yeah. And
being able to handle your opponent.
Could you describe some of the principles maybe you just did of the bully-proof system or program?
One is the 3 T's, which I like a lot. Talk, tell, and tackle. So if somebody's bothering you, giving you a hard time, trying to do something to you, you talk to them, tell them to leave you alone. Don't push me, don't touch me, don't call me names, etc. The second one's tell. So you can go to a teacher, a parent, adult authority figure, tell them, hey, this person's bothering me. The last one, if nobody's there, or they're putting their hands on you, and there's nobody there to help you, or no adult to tell, and then we teach them essentially to tackle and take them to the ground, and then hold them in that position until help arrives, or the person decides that they're going to give up and be nice to you.
That sounds like
you get some of these kids, little 10-year-old girl, she gets on top of you and mount, and she's like, my God, she's like an octopus. She takes right to you, you can't get her off. It's great.
Some little kid just picked a fight with a 80-pound little Royce Gracie that's all over him on the playground. They had no idea.
Oh my God.
That's cool. So talk, tell, and tackle. Not necessarily like 3 steps, but like you only do the tackle when there's no other option, right?
Exactly right.
Cool.
Right.
So what advice would you have for somebody who was in maybe a similar situation as yourself and thinking about starting their own school?
So I'd really encourage them to think about what it is they're looking to get out of it. So is it just that you want your own school for convenience because you want to do your own thing, you want to have control over your jiu-jitsu career, how you train, where you train, etc., or is it something that you want to do to earn a living? For the first one, it's fairly easy. It's just a matter of, do you have the financial means in order to do it, right? And there's 2 kind of paths you can take. So if you have a big chunk of money, congratulations for you, then it's simple, right? You can get down and plunk a bunch of money down, find a place, get the mats. You're up and running with 0 students to start with, and, hopefully you can get somebody in the door and build it from scratch. For most people, either you've already taught for a long time and you have a bit of a following, and maybe you can have some of those folks go with you, hopefully without burning any bridges. Or 2, you go and you find, one of the more traditional martial arts schools that's a little bit more open-minded, that has open time on their schedule. You go in there and you work out a deal, usually for something close to peanuts. Maybe give them their students free training, and you slowly start to build up a clientele. And then from there, you look at opening a place. I'd say you probably need, at least from my view, if you really want to open your own place at your own facility, etc., you probably need 15 to 20 people to start to make it worthwhile. I was lucky that I had a fair number of students that came over day one when I opened my place. But again, I'd been teaching in the region, for over 10 years prior to that, or at least close to 10 years prior to that. And so I think we're in the black probably within 2 months. It was very, very lucky.
That's cool. And but your primary goal is, like you said, you have a full-time job, and you have an income. So you like to teach, and you like to have a place to train, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, there's one of my students once opened his own place. I'm working with him now, and again, we're taking that same philosophy that we're looking at. You need to understand the demographics of the area you're going to be in. What your competition, if any, is going to be, and then you try and find a spot and then build a clientele. So, one of my guys, phenomenal brown belt. We actually are looking at a few different places in the state. And keep in mind, there's a ton of places nowadays, but there's a few metropolitan areas that don't have schools. And so we're looking for some of those traditional martial arts schools, and we'll get him in there. People will see how good he is. He'll build a clientele, and then year to 3 years, he's got enough students. He's got some cash saved up. He opens up his own place, and he's off to the races.
Cool. Do you think that, like in a small city that doesn't have a jiu-jitsu school, that people that want to train, they see a little bit of UFC or some MMA, or they've heard about jiu-jitsu, and it's not available, do you think they do a different martial art, or they think that they don't do anything at all and they just wait?
I think some do a different martial art, to be honest with you, and I think some just hang out and don't do anything. It's a matter of it. Right now is, in some ways, it's the best time. In some ways, it's challenging. In some ways, it's the best time because obviously the UFC is exploding. Right? jiu-jitsu is becoming more popular. There's more people that know about it. So somebody might have an interest. They might have a friend of a friend that actually trains that they can talk to them about, but maybe that school is really far away, so it's not convenient. So it's a matter of trying to find a place that can work with their schedule, where their schedule meets their schedule, and that's close enough where they can actually make it work. I think that's part of it. And obviously, if you can get a kids program going, then that's huge, because then you're building future students down the road. And then, one of my friends, Rob who's down in Florida, he's one of Rob Kahn's black belts. He's actually got a kids camp that he does in the summer, and he's got almost like a daycare. So he picks kids up from school, and if your goal is to do this for a living, then kids is where the majority of the money is. If you don't have a kids program and you want to make money and you actually want to make a living doing jiu-jitsu, unless you're a world champion, you better figure out how to get the kids. And those programs are really where it's at from what I've seen.
Cool. And kids take classes. They do things like that where their parents expect them to spend money. Either the kid's going to do gymnastics or piano lessons or jiu-jitsu. And a lot of times the parents are out for whatever the kid wants to do. They're expecting to pay money and to help with the transportation if need be. But that's cool that he has a way to pick them up. But and then you get a kid that falls in love with it. They've got a sport for life. That's a long-term growth strategy, I think.
Yeah, and again, those kids grow up to be adults that train jiu-jitsu if they fall in love with it. And the other thing that people don't think about, but what I've experienced, is sometimes you bring the kids in, and the parents become your friends, right? So, my kids are in the class, so I'm sitting next to her, I'm helping teach or teaching the class, and, I'm talking to the parents, and I might say, hey, why don't you come over here and, help me out with this, and I show them what they're doing, and then all of a sudden the dad's like, well, what would it cost if I wanted to train too? And then I'm like, oh, yeah, come on, jump in, try it, see what you think. And then the mom's like, well, you have a women's class? And then all of a sudden I have the entire family training there. So I have multiple families where every single person pretty much in the family trains at the school. And I think part of that's the vibe, right? So, if you have a family atmosphere and it's welcoming and open, it just almost starts to naturally happen. I mean, granted, not every parent is going to want to train, but, 1 out of 10, they're going to start to get in there. And then the more people you have through the doors that have a positive experience, whether they like to stay or not, the more, positive feedback that you're getting out in the community, and the more people are going to hear about you and want to come and check you out.
What are some things that you do that maybe that somebody else wouldn't, or maybe mess up, that would create a positive first experience for somebody?
So I think I have a very laid-back approach.
Yeah.
All right. So I don't have any formality really whatsoever. The kids' classes have a little bit, so we want them to bow in because there's part of a character development and respect piece that I think parents expect when they bring kids to martial arts. So we have a bit of that in the kids' class. In the adults class, I treat people with respect. Everybody calls me by their first name. You don't call me professor. You don't call me master. I'm a person just like you are. I've just been doing it longer. And I think what I tell people when they walk in the door is like, listen, the people here are my best friends. All right, this is my family. All right, I'd do anything for pretty much anybody who's been here more than 6 months, and they'd do pretty much anything for anybody else who's been here for 6 months. Once you've kind of passed that 6-month barrier, you remember the family. Before that, hey, we like you, you're great, but you got to prove to us you're going to stick around. And once you prove you're going to stick around, then that's it, you're in. We socialize together. We have kind of big parties in the summer where everybody brings in like a potluck, and you got their friends are invited. A bunch of the different people come in. Again, we do a bunch of free community outreach type things in terms of helping the women and the police departments, etc. So it's just about trying to do things for the community. We donate free memberships to local charities, like autism charities and things like that. But you're just trying to show people that we're trying to give back to the community.
Well, cool. You mentioned that it seems like after about 6 months, somebody will stick around, and then you always hear like the thing that a blue belt is more likely to stop coming to class after they get their blue belt. Have you experienced that?
I haven't experienced that at all, to be honest.
Oh, that's good.
Not at all.
I was going to ask you.
Yeah, my school, the retention is extremely high. 6 months to me is kind of a cutoff. I'd say, with very few exceptions, those people that I know that have quit after 6 months typically have only quit due to major life changes, divorce, They have to move, obviously. They have kids, and a lot of times when they have kids, they'll end up coming back eventually. But there's a major life change that necessitates them to sacrifice something. And jiu-jitsu is integral as it is to my life, and I'm assuming your life. It's not the first priority for everybody. They may love it, but there's other things that take precedence.
Yeah, absolutely. That's cool. I'm glad you haven't experienced that. It seems like some people do experience blue belts getting discouraged or kind of dropping off, but it's cool that you haven't had that happen to your place. That's good.
Usually you can spot those guys, I think. We have kind of an informal rule that we talk about at the school. So we have a douchebag ratio. So we never want the douchebag ratio to get over 20%. I mean, you need a little bit of the douchebag in the school so that you have some realistic training at times. So you have those guys that are great guys, but they roll like douches. So I can handle that to a point, as long as that ratio doesn't get too high. I think that helps keep the environment in the school where you want it to be.
That's funny. You need a couple of those rolls with guys that are going to knee in the head and not say sorry, or send you a good elbow on accident and not think anything of it. It keeps you.
I'm all for the keep it playful, but you can't keep it playful all the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just got to go at it. You need a mixture, and so you need those guys. Like, one of my black belts, one of my best friends, I'm training with him forever. He's a great guy. He rolls like a maniac. Not with the lower level belts, but when he and I roll together, I mean, we're like best friends, and we try and kill each other every time. So I know when we're rolling, it's war, right? It's just, but if he wasn't there, I wouldn't have that. I wouldn't be where I am now. And we've constantly challenged each other, over the last several years.
Can you got your black belt in 2010? Can you think of something that you've learned since that about jiu-jitsu that you didn't really realize before that?
I've learned way more since getting my black belt than I did before. Way more. I've learned some of the most simplistic basics. And I'll give you an example. I still go to seminars. I go to seminars whenever I can. I went to a Henry Aiken seminar recently, and he showed me something with just posture within the guard that changed the way I thought about it. Every time Rob Kahn comes up, he shows me something else that blows my mind. Or my friend Marcio, I'm constantly learning. I think as you know more, you're able to recognize the mistakes better. All right, so you're able to appreciate the finer level of details that maybe you didn't even think about when you're a purple belt or brown belt. When you're a brown belt, you're just trying to get that umoplata perfect, or you're trying to work on your transitions. Right? Then you're a black belt, and you're a black belt for 3, 4, 5 years, 10 years, who knows, whatever. And then now there's this little subtle change in weight by a degree, and it makes all the difference in the world. So I think my game has changed dramatically since getting my black belt. In fact, by the time I was a brown belt, I may have caught, when I was a brown belt, so this is 2008, 2009, I may have caught 2 guillotines in my entire jiu-jitsu career at that point. It was pathetic. I mean, I had some stuff I was really good at. The guillotines weren't one of them. And then I worked with Marco Delima, Rob Kahn, a couple other guys that tweaked a few things, and I'm like, I got to get good at this. And for the next 6 to 10 months, it's the only thing I went for. And then I developed that piece of it. And so I'm much more focused in the way I train now. That every time I'm in the mat, I have a purpose. There's something that I want to work on or I want to get better at. And that focused training is something I never even really considered until after I had my brown belt.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the focused training, and I'm going to class tonight, and I'm going to have a couple things I'm going to work on, and hopefully I'll get to the positions to get to work on those. But I think it does help you develop your game a lot quicker and a lot more effectively. If you've got, today I'm working on triangles, and you do that for more than a day, you do that for like a month or 6 months or whatever, like you said with your guillotines. You didn't just, your guillotine didn't happen until you've been training for a long time. If it was just like a random event, it would have happened by now. You know what I mean? Like you need to put some focus onto it, get a little bit more instruction with it, and now you've got a great guillotine.
Like waves, right? So when you think about jiu-jitsu, I think about waves. So you go up, you go down, you go up, you go down. As long as you're continuing to evolve, it's a positive experience.
And you're a big fan of like breaking down like complex ideas into smaller things. Can you give an example of something like that?
Yeah. So the way I think about it is, I'm not that smart. So if I can understand it and explain it, then anybody can get it. So one thing I think about when you're in someone's guard, right? So obviously the way your hips are positioned is going to impact your posture, and the way your legs are positioned is going to impact your posture. But a lot of times when people are putting their hands on somebody else, right? So when your hands are on the person, so you know what I'm talking about? So you have good posture, your hands on the body of your partner. Where you place your hands has a huge impact. So I call it the kickstand theory. So a lot of times people will grab right at the belt line, right? But if you think right at the belt line, that's where your hips pivot. So I don't care how strong you are, if you're holding directly at the belt line by my hips, I can break your posture and bring you forward. If you have your hand out on an angle, right, and I try and bring you forward, now it's going to be difficult. Right? If I can get your hand directly underneath your shoulder so your weight comes forward and your shoulder's directly over your hand on my body, I can break your posture. But if you keep that kickstand in that kickstand type position, now it allows you to keep me from coming up. It makes it more difficult for me to break your posture.
So are you do you like the hand more on the bicep or just upper body somewhere, or does it matter?
So typically I probably roll at this point maybe 50-50 no-gi, 50-50 gi, but even my gi game, I don't tend to use a lot of grips. So what I'll do is I like to have, let's say if I want to pass or open the guard on my left-hand side, I'll have the ridge of my left arm inside the knee of my partner, and I'll have my hand kind of in the center of the chest.
Okay, cool. That makes sense. I like the breakdown, the analysis of the kickstand. So everybody knows what a kickstand is, like on a bicycle. And if your kickstand was right next to your wheel and it didn't like go out at all, your bike's going to fall over. You might as well not even have it. But you put it out there at an angle, it's going to hold your bike up, provided the wind doesn't come from the wrong way. But it's a good way to kind of explain that concept. You've got a lot of videos on YouTube. Can you tell me a little bit about your YouTube channel?
Yeah, so it was a bit of a whim, to be honest with you. I think I started it in 2009. I was teaching some morning classes at the school that I was teaching at the time, and just started making videos occasionally here and there. We had like a website we did for a while. In addition to that, where we wrote some articles. Ended up shutting down the website just because it was taking up too much time. I shut it down when I opened the school, and I think now we have about 250 videos. We had over 1 million views, strangely enough, like close to 5,000 subscribers. It just kind of caught on. And then I've recently started putting a lot more videos up. I think I kind of got away from it for a while because, again, life gets busy at times. But it was just interesting to get a lot of positive feedback. I was surprised because, again, I started it when I was a brown belt. I just did it for the heck of it. And I've got a lot of people that have reached out to me and said that I've helped them change their game, or that they really enjoyed some of the stuff that's out there. And I've had a few some negative feedback occasionally as well, but it's all good. It's been a really positive experience.
Yeah, if you don't get any negative feedback at all, you're not doing enough work, I think.
Some of it's wildly entertaining too. It's great.
Yeah. I mean,
the way I look at it.
Yeah.
The way I look at it is, what I tell people is, I'm never going to be the best black belt. I'm never going to be the worst, but I'm damn well going to work as much as I can to be as good as I can be. That's all I can do. Yeah.
I remember kind of a similar, maybe a little different story. A guy that I trained with a while back, and he's a little bit older guy, and he got his blue belt. And he really felt like he didn't deserve a blue belt. He's smaller, he's older, and just he'd been training hard and long enough, but he just didn't feel like he belonged with those guys. And I told him that this is the blue belt version of you, and this is what you're a blue belt. You have to trust your instructor, but this is you at blue belt level. Don't worry about other people. That's a different thing. And kind of you saying that about you're going to be the best black belt you're going to be able to be, kind of reminded me of that.
Yeah, I mean, you have to trust your instructor. I mean, if you're going to somebody and you're saying you're entrusting them to teach you this phenomenal art, right?
Yeah.
You have to trust them, and they're the ones making the call. I mean, you can't. You're your own harshest critic typically. Right?
Yeah.
So if you trust your instructor, you got to believe in them when they give you that belt. Right? So when I got my black belt, I was like, "Are you freaking kidding me? There's no way." But guess what? It wasn't my call. Right? I'm not going to disrespect him by taking the thing off. You crazy? So I was inspired to get better so that I could be worthy of the belt that I was wearing. And besides, you're only, I think, that first day when you get the belt, that's not as good as you're going to be at that belt.
No.
You're going to be there for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, promotions don't come fast in jiu-jitsu. It took me 10 years to get my black belt. You're not ripping through these belts unless you're one of the phenoms they have nowadays. right? So if you don't think you deserve your blue belt today, then bust your ass and deserve it tomorrow.
I like that. That's a good philosophy to have with that. What advice would you have for a student that's in their first that's entered into their first tournament?
Well, first, I guess it depends on why you're joining the tournament, right? So why are you competing? If you're doing it just for the heck of it, great. If you're doing it because you want to be like, the next Keenan Cornelius, that's great too. I'd say a couple things. One, do whatever you can to relax. Don't go crazy with weight cutting for your first tournament. I think that's silly. You want to go out there and have a good time, be safe, and enjoy yourself. Right? Try and take winning out of the equation. Right? If you want to be the next phenom, that's great. You don't have to win every match at white belt level to become the next phenom. You can go out there, get a little bit of experience, get more comfortable, and as you get more comfortable, then you start to tighten up your game plan. If you've already had a few tournaments, then it's different. Then you can't go into a tournament without a plan. Right? If it's your first one, I still want guys to have a plan, because I think it makes it easier. Anything that you have a plan for in life, the outcome's probably going to be a little bit better. So I want them to think through what the best possible scenario is going to be for them in their mind, and then I'm going to have them drill it like crazy. Right? And when they feel really, really solid with it, so they're kind of using their A game, then we'll start to look at permutations or situations where you may find yourself if things go a little bit off kilter, and then we start drilling that as well.
Well, cool. What would you say to a student who may be a white or blue belt, and you could see that they already have the goal that they want to be a black belt someday? How would you help them out?
So it depends on kind of where their level is at, right? So white or blue belt, but even in a white or blue belt, there's so many different degrees and different levels. What I try and tell people, and I think it's difficult for everyone, there's only maybe 1 in 100 that you should get it right away, is when you're here, you don't have to win in training, right? I mean, everybody loves to catch the other guy. That's great. That's kind of the goal when you're training. You want to catch the guy. I get that, but it's not about winning in training. It's about getting better. So the more I can relax now, early on, and really think about the person with my jiu-jitsu as opposed to with all my other attributes, the better off you're going to be. I think it's more of a struggle with big guys because they have an ability to move people around and get on top and smash that some of the smaller guys don't. So typically the smaller guys pick it up a little bit faster out of necessity. But for a mid-sized guy, big-sized guy, that's a pretty significant challenge.
I'll stick with the big guy thing. Like, the bigger students have a different journey in jiu-jitsu anyway. What would you tell like a big student who's having a hard time grasping some of the concepts of jiu-jitsu, and they want to avoid using their size and strength, but it seems to be a difficult thing sometimes?
So I'm about 215, give or take. Right?
Okay.
So I guess in some circles I'm big, but I got guys in my school. I got a guy who's well over 300 pounds. I got a guy who's like 6'8". He's about 270, and so we encounter that pretty regularly. Some of these guys, and I have a few other guys, obviously like 250, 260. And the question I have for them early on is like, do you want to get good at jiu-jitsu or do you want to beat people up? So I'm pretty straightforward with it.
Yeah.
I'm like, what do you want to do? You want to get good at this art, or do you want to come in and beat the crap out of a bunch of people? And most of them say they want to get good at the art. If they don't, they're probably not going to stick around very long. And I said, okay, well, if you want to get good at the art, then stop trying to beat the shit out of everybody. Think about relaxing. Try and pretend you weigh the same as them. You don't have to be on top all the time, right? Play with your partner a little bit, right? And then as you get better, right? I mean, there's some other guys that are big, then you can start to dial it up and turn it up. Your size isn't going to go away, right? You're not going to go from 300 pounds to 150 pounds tomorrow. That's not going to happen, right? So you're still going to have those other attributes. The same thing if you have a 180-pound guy who's jacked out of his mind. He's ripped. Put the strength aside for now, and then when you get better and you're going against more competitive guys, then you start to bring those attributes back into the equation.
Cool.
And then I start to, I set them up in drilling certain techniques, and I force it. All right, and I kind of get on them a little bit. So I watch those guys and try and, be that little voice in the back of their head. All right. Sometimes they can think, they hear it without me saying stuff. Sometimes I'm actually standing there and I'm saying, "Hey, quit being a spaz."
Yeah, use your technique and slow down and don't muscle everybody. I like your idea of, do you want to get good at jiu-jitsu or just beat people up? And really they have to confront the idea that to get good at jiu-jitsu, you don't just go beating everybody up. That's not going to really help you in the long run.
Not easy for everybody. I mean, I had the same issue when I started. When I first went in, I wanted to learn this awesome martial art and get really good at it. And I think I rolled with this guy who was like 130 pounds and beat the hell out of me. And I was like, what the hell is going on? And he told me, he's like, listen, he's like, you're tough and you're a strong guy, whatever. But if you keep doing what you're doing, you're gonna suck forever. I was like, oh, all right. And it kind of stuck with me. And then I started, not constantly trying to smash everybody. And I started playing a lot more bottom game for a while and just being more relaxed and trying to actually learn the art. And that's really when, I loved it from day one, but when I started trying to learn the art, that's when everything kind of opened up for me, to be honest.
Take me back to when you were a blue belt. What were you like back then, and how were times different?
So when I was a blue belt, I'm trying to think. So when I first started, my coach was a blue belt, and then I saw Royce probably 4 or 5 times a year, and then saw Rodrigo maybe once or twice a year. So I got my blue belt actually pretty quick in 6 months, and so I knew like the basic self-defense. I had just probably started to play guard a fair amount, and then kind of what changed my game in some ways is I saw this crazy video from Stefan Kesting video on the omoplata, and then basically I think from blue belt through most of purple belt, I was a guard player that did all sorts of stuff with omoplatas, and that kind of became my game. I was bigger than probably 3/4 of the guys I trained with. There's a few guys that are much bigger than me. But I just stopped trying to always get on top and smash people. Just kind of sat back, played guard, and went for omoplatas. And then I trained back then. I trained like 6 to 8 times a week. But we had classes on Tuesday, Thursday night, and Sunday. And there was also Tuesday and Thursday morning classes. And I was working for the phone company at the time. I would drive to my buddy's school, like usually 3 or 4 times a week, and train with him over my lunch break. And it was just all-consuming. Right? It was all I could think about.
Cool. I think that's common for that stage. It's just like you're kind of like opening that book. You get to read a little bit of it, and it becomes amazing. And you just want more. I think that's a common
so much more.
Yeah.
It's more available to people now. I mean, when I was first started, there wasn't all these videos. You didn't see all these matches. I didn't have access to see all these amazing grapplers doing all these amazing things. God, if I talked to people about the UFC, they thought I was a serial killer. And now it's popular. You have people in the office that are talking about it all the time, and they know that I train. It's like, hey, Jay, what do you think of Conor McGregor or John Jones or Ronda Rousey? It's just a totally different environment.
Yeah. We talked a little bit about having for a student to go in there with some kind of a plan. What would be some tips for helping a student pick out a game plan?
So, actually, it's interesting to say that. So I was working with one of my students last night. So she's competed maybe once or twice. She's not very confident with her takedowns, but she doesn't want to jump guard necessarily because she's afraid she's going to hurt herself or get slammed. And so, we kind of sat with her and said, okay, well, you don't feel confident with your takedowns. You don't want to jump guard. So let's look at a few ways where we can get into the guard position potentially without you having to worry about, that anxiety of getting slammed or, jumping and landing on your back. So showed her a couple different techniques we can do that, how to drill that repeatedly. And then talked to her and said, okay, well, where in a perfect world, right, if the match went exactly the way you want, what do you want to happen? Right? Think of all the moves that you're best at, right? So if you could have every situation work exactly the way you want it, how's the match go? And so she walked me through it. So in a perfect world, I want this. I'm like, okay, well, then we're going to drill it. So that you're going to drill and prepare so that that's what happens. And that's what we start doing. So we said, okay, we're going to sit back in the guard in this fashion. And from there, we're going to work this particular sweep, which is your best sweep. Once you get on top in the mount, we're going to go for your best submission. And we're going to drill it over and over and over again. And only when we feel this is as tight as it can possibly get are we going to start thinking about, okay, well, what if you go for this and it doesn't work? What do we do from there?
Cool. That's in a perfect world. How's your match? And then work from there and develop a game plan that helps you get through that to that position, to that match.
I mean, if you have a tournament coming up in 6 months, it's not like you're going to learn to do the berimbolo and be able to execute it against somebody who's been doing it for 5 years. It's not going to happen. But you have some stuff in your game at that point that's your best stuff.
Yep.
And that's what you want to try when you're competing. You want to go your A game. Now, something may happen. There may be a transition, a scramble, what have you, and you go to something else. That's fine. But in the perfect world, go for your best moves and go for your best stuff.
Yeah, that's the original concept of BJJ Brick is like you get a couple techniques, and they're going to feel like you're smashing somebody with a brick. Like, it's just going to be. That's how people do well in competition. But in a lot of other things other than jiu-jitsu, is to have like a focused little area, and it's going to be hopefully it'll be unstoppable for you. You don't dilly-dally in 100 different things and learn a bunch of different random things right before a tournament. That's not going to be there for you. You got to build those bricks.
You can have like a blue belt or a purple belt, have like a black belt in La Plata, belt in La Plata, right? They're not going to be at black belt level. Their whole game's not going to be at that level, right? But they could take 1, 2, maybe 3 pieces and refine them so much that, in those certain positions or in those certain areas or those certain moves, they are an extremely high level. And if they can get the match into those positions, they're going to dominate. And I think that's the way we try and think about it.
Absolutely. That's a good way to think of it. What would you say would be a good goal for a student their first year of training?
Well, most students would probably tell you their goal would be to get their blue belt within the first year, but I don't think that's necessarily the best goal for a student their first year. I think would be to train injury-free, enjoy the process, right, and get competent in all positions. So you don't have to necessarily be a killer in all positions, but you need to be competent and have 2 to 3 things that you can do from every position. And if you do that in your first year and be able to do it with some level of fluidity, then you're definitely on the right track.
I think that's a real good way to look at it. Competence in all the positions, 2 or 3 moves. That way, you have some options to work with. You're not stuck in second from the bottom with nothing to do because you don't have any idea what you're supposed to do. You have got a couple things. If it doesn't work, go to the next one. Same thing if you're in mount. You have a couple of techniques. You may not be good at them, but you have some stuff you're going to attempt to do, and eventually you'll be able to build off of that and get better. So to get competence in all basic positions and a couple of moves from there is a really good thing to work on your first year.
Yeah, if you said your first 6 months, all defensive positions.
Yeah.
Be able to survive. So you got to learn to survive first. After you learn to survive, then you learn to escape. From escaping, it's then to advance your position, which is similar to escaping. And then once you learn how to survive, like you learn how to escape, you learn how to advance your position, then you start attacking.
Sounds good. As a coach, what are some of your favorite traits of some of your ideal students?
Humility. Right? So, I think I've had a number of fantastic students. But, if I think of the model of the perfect student, is somebody who comes in, always gives everything to their training partner, right? Shares everything that they know, and wants their training partner to get better. There's guys you roll with where you don't even care what their belt level is. If they tap you, it makes you happy, right? And there's other guys where you can tell, like, they're intense, like they just want to beat you, right? They want to, like, show you that they're better than you. It's a different type of thing. And my favorite students are there because they want to learn, they want to get better, and they give off that love to all of their training partners. Right? They look at everybody in the room like a brother, right? And they do anything for them. And I'm blessed to have a number of students that fit that mold.
How would somebody keep up with you or follow you online?
Yeah, so they can they can shoot me an email, jay@graciefv.com. It's Jay. They can check out the Facebook page, Gracie Farmington Valley. They can feel free to check out the YouTube videos and give me comments on what they like, what they don't like. Always trying to get better, and I'm happy to give people pointers or just chat about jiu-jitsu in general.
Cool. Do you have a favorite YouTube video that you have up?
Favorite one that I have up?
Yeah. Are they all?
I don't know. The last one.
Okay, I'll put a link.
I have my least favorite for sure. That for some reason I've left up for years, even though it's a little ridiculous.
That's funny. I gotta.
It's called. If they look around, they can find it. I think I've said like 5 times in comments that it's not a very effective submission, but it's okay to kind of like distract somebody.
Yeah.
I'd say probably my no-gi videos are better. I love gi. I love no-gi. I think I'm a little more innovative in no-gi, to be honest with you, and I think I get a lot of that from Rob Kahn and Rob D'Onofrio and those guys down in Tampa. They come up and show me a bunch of stuff, and it just starts my brain spinning, and then I go from there.
Well, cool. I'll put links to all those on the show notes there, and hopefully make it easier for people to find you. Cool. I appreciate the interview. It's been a lot of fun talking with you.
Yeah, I really appreciate you having me. I listen to the podcast pretty regularly. I think what you guys are doing is cool. I love the listening to the different jiu-jitsu guys you have on there, the world champions, and I'm not like them, but hopefully somebody can get something of value out of what I said. And, I'll be listening to your future podcast as well, and I wish you guys much success.
Well, thank you, and it's always good to get a good coach's perspective on things, and you shared a lot of really good ideas and philosophies that I think people are going to be able to take with them and help them out on the mat.
Cool, man. I appreciate it.
All right, well, I'll keep up with you. Have a good day, man.
All right, have a good one. Thanks.
All right, that was Jay Bell. Thanks again for doing the interview. We mentioned a little bit before, breaking down complicated ideas and topics into simple things. And then if you watch his videos, that's you see a lot of that.
And that's why, like I said, I really started watching those early in my career, and that's what it was. He really broke it down. He broke it down so I could understand it. I was kind of new at the time, and it just really made sense to me, and I owe a lot to him. I learned a lot. I've never met him, and he probably has no clue who I am, but I really did learn a lot from this guy.
So if you want a little bit more Jay Bell action, we've got good news for you. Not only can you go to his YouTube channel or check him out on Facebook or whatever, but he gave our quote of the week for next week.
So you're going to get a double dose.
Double dose.
You'll get Jay Bell next week, too.
It'll just be a little quote, but it's a good one. And speaking of next week's episode, we've got an old friend coming back on the show. Not back on the show. Come on the show. A guy named Chris Easter.
Looking forward to it.
Gary. Chris I think he was a purple belt when we started. Was he? Maybe a blue.
Purple or blue.
Yeah.
But that was back. There wasn't really a lot of people to get promoted. So he was phenomenal.
Yeah, back then.
And he still is.
Yeah, he's still competing a bunch. He's in the military, so he's moved around the country quite a bit, trained at a lot of different places. I
was telling Byron a story. Chris Easter would stop by sometimes and train with us, and I remember, and he was such a nice guy. He'd show you stuff, and it was just an honor to train with him. But I remember one time he was working on the baseball choke there, and he just did it to me over and over again. I knew it was coming. He even said that's what he was going to work, and I bet I tapped out 15 times in 5 minutes to the same move. And it just, but stuff like that, whenever I went against somebody like that, it just made me realize this sport is awesome. I know it's coming.
Yeah.
And I can't stop it. Yeah. That's what's so cool about
it.
And
back then and the amazing thing is you didn't have a key on. Still, he was able to get that choke. But he was such a physical specimen back then. And he is still a very fit person, but he prides himself on technique and doing simple moves and not real complicated fancy stuff. He's the basics guy is what he says. And he's gotten away from trying to have to be super strong and use that as his biggest attribute to where his technique is phenomenal. It was phenomenal back then, but now he's really focused. He's seen the difference in his game.
So definitely check out next week with Chris Easter. You're guaranteed to learn.
Gary, we still have some gi patches we can give away if you want to write us a funny or just a review. If we like them when they're funny, but you write us a review on iTunes or Stitcher Radio.
And then send us an email to bjjbrick@gmail.com to let us know that was you. That way we can get that patch out to you.
Yep. And we're only able to send it out to the U.S., so I'm sorry if you're outside the U.S., and we do appreciate you listening wherever you are, but we're sending it out for free, so we're just sending it here locally here.
And definitely, check out the audio book. It's definitely worth it. It's only $11.99. You'll learn a ton of stuff from Byron there. And don't forget, we'll put a link to the page for that, and we'll also put a link for the Grapplethon for our friend Amber Oxford Haynes. Definitely, if you got some time or extra cash, donate a little bit of money to her.
Yep, if you're in town, come go to the event. I mean, they're going to be grappling all day. If you're not in town, just donate some money if you're able to, and support Amber that way. Speaking of this, come by this is Wichita, Kansas. We're in here, Gary.
Yeah, let us know. We'd love to train.
Yep.
Maybe we could even, after we train, get you up here and get you on the show.
Yeah, there we go. I could record a little segment with my phone at the gym.
Yeah.
That'd be fun. So we got a great show coming at you guys next week. We'll catch you guys then.
Yeah, we really, really appreciate you listening. Thank you so much.
And stay sweaty, my friends.
Thank you for listening. I hope you find the time today to roll. After all, the best way to get better at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.